next is Cathy Stanton, who is the VP of International of Twitter. And Cathy has just joined in this international role, which says that Twitter is going to go really heavy on international. And Jamillah Knowles from the LeWeb, please join me on stage. Great to see you again since London, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, with a mic it's going to be a little difficult, but we're going to make. Hello, Cathy. Welcome. We're really glad to have you.
Glad to be here. So let's get comfortable. So we got some women in charge. It's quite nice to have this on the stage, I think.
Absolutely.
So, Cathy, tell me more about your role at Twitter. What does this mean? It sounds like a fantastic job, but what do you actually do day to day?
It is a fantastic job. I feel very lucky. My role and my team's role is to help grow the audience of Twitter outside the United States. And that really takes the form of three things. The first is helping consumers around the world discover the value of Twitter and how it brings you closer to what you most care about. The second piece is working with our partners, helping them leverage the Twitter platform to help with their programmings with television, to help with their athletic events, to help with their musical events. And then the third, and arguably the most important thing that we can do, is build our teams on the ground. So I spend a lot of my time traveling and also meeting a lot of people in different markets to help build a business in a way that makes us proud.
Well, that sounds amazing. It sounds like travel and social and, well, 24 hours a day working, though. How do you strike a balance, then, if you're working with global markets?
It is a challenge. What we do is we really focus on a couple of markets at a time. For example, when I started at Twitter 2.5 years ago, we worked at setting up the UK and Japan, so we would go back and forth to both markets.
It's nice for time zones.
Yeah, always tired. And but once we had local teams on the ground, we were able to basically hand over the keys and have them work on building those offices. So we've been extremely fortunate to have tremendous leaders in the UK and Japan, and now Germany. So once we have those teams up and running, we're able to move on to the next market.
Exactly. So where will be the next one, though? It seems like Twitter is popping up around the world all over the place.
That's right. We have 6 offices outside the United States. We're in Japan, Korea, the UK, Ireland, Germany, and we just recently hired our country director for Brazil. And the next market is France.
Fantastic. And so what will be happening in France? What does a French team have to do? What have they got ahead?
We're really excited about the opportunity for France. France has been one of our fastest growing markets around the world, which has been tremendous. We've seen something like 150% user growth year over year, and about 350% growth in tweets on a daily basis. So our France team will hopefully help even accelerate that by working with partners, working with the TV stations, working with publishers, and working with consumers.
It seems that the consumer audience and indeed media, as you mentioned there, do have an understanding of what they can or feel they should be doing with Twitter. Does it take a lot of explaining anymore?
It really depends on the market. France has probably been one of the most sophisticated media markets for us, where we've walked into many of our partners at TF1, Canal Plus, and M6, and all the different TV stations. They're light years ahead of other markets that we've seen. So it's been really nice to see, and they've helped inspire a lot of creativity. Other markets need more of a nudge and more of an education, but for the most part, it's been really great discussing this with partners.
And so what is it like then trying to spread things a bit further into tougher markets like China and Russia? Have they been easy? Well, I guess they haven't been easy places really for Western markets to crack. So what does Twitter have in mind then for these regions?
Russia has actually been a really great market for us organically. We've seen a lot of growth in that market as well. In fact, President Medvedev came to Twitter a couple years ago and started his Twitter account. So he was one of the first world leaders to actually join Twitter. China's hard. We're not given the opportunity to compete there because the Chinese government has blocked Twitter. That said, there are a lot of citizens in China who are still able to VPN in and use our service, which is great. In fact, one of my favorite Twitter accounts to follow is Ai Weiwei, the artist and activist. And in a recent interview, he actually talked about Twitter being his city. So it's great to see Chinese users still be able to use our service.
Fantastic. And does the ability to write in different font languages online and on Twitter on mobile, indeed, help encourage these relationships.
Exactly. Today, Twitter is available in 33 languages. Our goal is to reach every person on the planet, so that will require making Twitter accessible in multiple languages. Mm-hmm. We leverage the community. We have something called our Translation Center that allows people to help contribute and crowdsource Twitter in any language. And so we'll continue to roll that out. We'll also continue to make sure that Twitter is accessible on any device that you use. If you're on a sophisticated iPhone or if you're on a rudimentary Nokia, no matter where you are in the world, you can still use Twitter.
Excellent. And so you work on partnerships, of course. What are the most recent highlights, things that you've been working on that were specifically quite exciting to you?
Well, yesterday it was funny. As I was flying in, it was kind of a banner news day and so much content being produced on Twitter. Mm-hmm. So we had Clarence House tweeting about Kate Middleton's pregnancy. We had the Vatican announce the Pope joining Twitter and doing so in about 8 languages. And then we also had President Obama tweeting and himself responding to citizens around the world, in the US mostly, but about the fiscal cliff. So there's a lot of content being produced. Those are 3 recent ones.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. Then you've got news coming up now about trends. I mean, there's obviously a trend for very high-profile people to use Twitter to communicate with a mass audience. But what else do you have coming?
That's right. So in over, I think it's about 33 markets, and worldwide you can see trends per country and then in a number of cities. So very shortly we're going to announce the expansion of the service. So you'll be able to go to your local city, including in France. We're adding a few more cities in France to see what people are talking about at that particular moment in that location.
Wonderful. And have you got specific cities in mind?
We do. So, for example, in France, we're going to add, Toulouse and Bordeaux, and a couple more after that. And so, it's part of our mission. How do we help provide, a delightful experience, and that's a real local experience as well.
Mm-hmm. So, as we said, sports and media seem to do rather well with this. When you guide your partners about what is appropriate, and also, as we just heard with Google, there's a difference between how or organizations will monitor how social networks are used. How do you guide your partners when it comes to staying within the rules, but also being, exciting or interesting users?
Well, there's so much creativity on behalf of our partners, so we don't really guide in terms of the creative ideas. Sometimes we do a little bit of that, but for the most part, what we do is share best practices. The rules of the road of tweeting, what to do, what not to do. The biggest lesson I think that I personally will tell most of my partners is to be genuine, be yourself. People on Twitter know when it's somebody else tweeting on their behalf. And we also share analytics with our partners so they can get real-time measurement of how the tweets are performing.
Excellent. And so you've done a lot of traveling yourself. How has that influenced your work on global partnerships, having that interest and also having that insight to play into your business?
Well, it's been great. I mean, I'm a big, I love to travel, and I don't think I could ever do a job that doesn't involve traveling. So I think every market that we open, it's really the first thing we do is listen. We listen to what the market is naturally telling us. We listen to the questions that are asked of us. We listen to what our partners are asking us and trying to do what's right for that particular market.
Do you notice differences then, cultural differences, especially in the way that people choose to use Twitter? I'm not entirely sure how much people can hear at this point.
Sorry.
That's okay. You can probably hear now a little bit more completely, I'm hoping. Oh. No. I'm saying all the rude things while this is not working. It's fine. Okay. Back to clean language. Okay. And so do you see, what do you see in the way of cultural differences then, in the way that people, citizens, I guess, choose to use Twitter?
Yeah, everyone comes to Twitter to connect, and that's kind of a similarity that we all have. But there are probably a couple of differences that we've seen. For example, the Japanese will use Twitter as mostly an SMS vehicle to be able to communicate directly. We saw after the disaster that struck Japan that people use this as more of a lifeline communication tool. We've seen Latin markets in Spain, Italy, France, Latin America that are very open and expressive, and they're big producers of tweets. So on average, we see about 60% of our users produce tweets and 40% of our users consume and just listen. And what that has taught us is that you don't need to tweet to get value out of Twitter. But I would say the Latin markets probably over-index a little bit for the production of tweets.
This is why we like Latin people. And so how successful then have promoted tweets been? What's the balance then when it comes to serving partners and making sure that they get the most out of this, but also making regular users not feel that they're having this impressed upon them?
Yeah, our promoted products, we have 3, promoted trends, accounts, and tweets, and they've performed really well so far. We have these open in 4 markets, primarily in the US, UK, Canada, and Japan. We've also worked with a couple of advertising partners to spur some of our growth in Latin America, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. And on average, what we're seeing is engagement rate of between 1% and 3%. Which is really tremendous if you compare it to, say, traditional display media that has an engagement rate of about 0.07%. So they're performing really well. We're really excited.
And when you're working then also with your partners, I mean, a minor thing, a small design change can happen on Twitter, and the entire audience, you'll see this wave of, acknowledgement at least, agreement in some cases. But do partners also, I mean, they must be affected by this. How do they react, and how do you work with them to make sure that they know what's coming?
Well, we always put our users first, and it's our goal to provide a really simple and elegant user experience. And we try to do the best job we can. We do a lot of testing before we have any new types of changes, but we actually haven't seen that type of reaction from our partners. They seem to be well enthused and prepared, and seem to work out just fine.
Perfect. So we've seen almost everything on Twitter, it seems, at the moment. I'm sure somebody will come up with something equally shocking tomorrow. But I mean, we've got moon landings, we've got proposals, we've got the Vatican. What are your favorite examples of the way that people use Twitter? Are there actually more everyday things that are more interesting to you?
For me personally, I do like the everyday things. I like the human touch, and I think that's one of the things to me that's most special about Twitter is that it humanizes institutions, for example. Seeing President Obama tweet, or seeing on election night the 4 more years tweet and photo with President Obama, hugging Michelle Obama. I think that was a really special moment. So I think those personal experiences are really, really nice ones.
Mm-hmm. Is there, it's a slightly cynical question, I'm going to say there's no Santa next, but don't tell everyone. When you see images like that, could it also mean that organizations and celebrities are becoming a little bit more savvy about their communication? It's really easy to see these people are also actors on a global stage. They appear genuine.
Yeah, I mean, I think celebrities are realizing that they need to be on this platform, that they want to connect directly with their fans wherever they may be, and one of the things that's really fun to see on Twitter, we call them kind of these only on Twitter moments, when you have a celebrity talk to another celebrity, and you feel like you're this fly on the wall, that you're somehow listening in on this conversation.
Okay, well, hopefully there's a few people listening in on this conversation while it gets live streamed as well. But thank you very much, Katie, for telling us more about your work.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.